Hey there, soccer freaks. This is ATL On Fire, the podcast where we talk all things Atlanta United Football Club. Sorry, Dave, I was just bringing up the injury status.
Very fancy. It's almost like we're a real podcast.
I know, and I've shared this with the Twitter sphere because as we've talked about on the podcast, they've really done a poor job of keeping fans informed of who's going to be available for the next game. So this spreadsheet I put on our Twitter account at ATL On Fire. I'm going to try to keep this up to date, at least best I can, by reading up and putting a date and what we've heard in the news in terms of their injury situation and or availability. It seems like some of the folks I was unclear on, like Josef Martinez and I think is going to be available. But I think that is going to bring us to our next part of our podcast here, which is
right on
today's big topic, Josef Martinez. Evidently, Heinze said that Josef is practicing by himself, not due to fitness, but due to purely a coaching decision, which he is confident he's making the right decision on. So there is a ton of speculation out there, of course, on these social platforms where it is a little bit comical just to go out there and see what the speculation is. I try not to dive in too deep. Rumors right now, I think the biggest one that I think people are concerned about is, does this mean that Josef is potentially going to be transferred in the summer window here because he wants out? Do you believe that to be the case?
I don't know. The last time that we had a player trained by themselves, which I believe was Gressel, who disappeared unceremoniously from Atlanta United. So the precedent is poor. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, nobody could have ever predicted that a sometimes temperamental Josef Martinez and a fire-blooded Heinze might get into a bit of a scrap. Right? Does it surprise anybody?
No. And that's what I think this. Personally,
I hope so.
I hope so, and I think that's what it is because, it does not make sense at all in terms of, at least reading the tea leaves that I have, in terms of really, up until this point, has there been any issues with Josef saying he wants to go to another club or he doesn't want to be in Atlanta? No, there's none of that. He's also coming off a major ACL surgery. His worth is very low right now. He's only got two.
Gotta be the worst.
He's only got 2 goals in 2021.
Yep.
And so he's really not a proven commodity. So I don't see where his value on the trade market would even be high. And where would he go? He's done with Europe. He's already been there. He's come back. He's 28. He's not going back to a major competitive European club, period, the end.
I'd have to believe that he's being transferred. He would be transferred, should I say it, to another MLS club.
I think that is a much more likely thing, yeah, because I think Josef also likes the States. I think he's become very comfortable, as you see on social media, with other sports, figures in the Atlanta market, but I think he likes the lifestyle, and I actually like the fact that if this is a pissing war between Heinze and Josef, that Heinze is the one that's putting him in a corner, because Josef does have a lot to prove right now. I want as a fan right now, all I give a crap about is goals. I love Josef Martinez. He gave me a championship, but what are you doing for me today is all I care about on this podcast, and that's all he should care about. And if the club is looking at the statistics of people who have ACL injuries, the data is not good for Josef. Doesn't mean he can't be the exception, but while he's come back 100%, as in he's here, mm-hmm. and he is playing, the data for all sports that, I don't know, I read in a Guardian article, so take this with a grain of salt. In the NFL, running backs and wide receivers, their performance, even when they come back, they're 100% there, but their performance is 1/3 of what it was statistically once they're back on the starting lineup.
I
And
see
so yeah,
your NFL and raise you Adrian Peterson.
and I raise you and I raise you the fact that the data right now says Josef Martinez has 2 goals, which feels like it's probably 1/3 of his typical curve at this point in the season. I don't know how many games we've played, but 2 goals.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it on the podcast. He's definitely not 100% back yet, but he's shown some signs of definitely getting better. And so, I don't think at least I or anybody could have reasonably expected that Josef Martinez would be the Josef Martinez of pre-ACL, first game out. Like, there's just no way. He was always going to take a half a season to get back up to speed. So I still feel... I always should. I'm still gonna stay. I'm still on the Heinze bandwagon. I think it's too early to say anything about whether or not he's really
like I said. When have we seen any of our starters on the field together? Not only the designated players, but literally like the people that you would just look at the map and be like, yes, give these players 90 minutes together, and let's see whether it's Alan Franco, Ronald Hernandez, Miles.
And honestly, for a lot of this season, if you had taken the way Atlanta had played and add to it a healthy Martinez who can finish, we would be at the top of the table or near the top of the table. So,
our starting squads have been completely not what an ideal coach would pick. And there's a multitude of reasons for it. And I know every team deals with that, but I feel like Heinze coming into the situation, only having a hand selected a few that he was able to pull in this year, that you've got to give him more runway. And I like a coach that's got a lot of attitude.
Yeah, fair.
So
that's a Mikey Dobbs style coach right there. And we have no idea. This is why you get into all these problems with speculation, because the club doesn't tell you anything. At least here you heard from the club that it was Heinze's decision. It's not an injury. They aren't playing games with that. So it's clearly coach's decision. And Heinze owned up to it. He said it was me and only me. And so
which, to me is the pissing match that Josef's had with Tata and Frank de Boer, and now with Heinze. And Heinze is definitely going to win this one. And I'm okay with that. And, the idea that it's something transfer related, there's a possibility, but I just don't believe it. It's
as a Man United coach, as a Man United fan, we talk about Alex Ferguson, and he wouldn't take nothing from nobody. Beckham doing too many commercials, bye bye. Yop Stam, talking about this, bye bye. Right, like he had no problem with being like, see ya.
Yeah. So
play for my team. You play the way I play. Want you to play, or
right now, if that's his attitude, I want Heinze here for even longer. I want to give him even more runway if he's going to lay down the law. And out of the article coming out of the Athletic, it seemed to me there was a little bit of naiveness with Frank de Boer on understanding what was going on and how to put the hammer down. I think he got almost overrun by the team to some degree, with the whole meeting and the how do we play nice in the sandbox? And at the end of the day, he lost control of the team, where Heinze is going to refuse to do that. And if that means he gets fired, I think he's okay with it, and he's going to move on. And so I'm good with that.
Amen.
So
on that note.